This, the second Sunday of Advent, is devoted to the concept of peace, humanity's eternal, elusive dream. Philosophers spend their lives defining it, historians their reputations defending it, warriors their arms claiming it, clergy their Sundays promoting it. The white dove bearing the olive twig, glorifying and exemplifying it. And the second Sunday of each Advent, we again address the challenge that even the concept of peace demands. But if it is the dream of the world, why has it not been attained? Why is so difficult about laying down arms and embracing our neighbor and our enemy? What is so difficult about accepting Isaiah's challenge and beat our swords into plowshares? Why is peace the unending and impossible dream? Don Quixote's quest was easy. All he wanted was to revive chivalry and serve his nation. Two goals I'd gladly embrace. But that would not be enough to bring about world peace. And it is peace that is so desperately needed in this sorry world, where brother is turned against brother and nation against nation, since time immemorial. Perhaps we should begin with considering what we mean by the word peace. The Cambridge Dictionary defines it as freedom from war and violence, especially when people live and work together happily without disagreements. The state of not being interrupted or annoyed by worry, problems, noise, or unwanted actions. While my favorite authority, Wikipedia, elaborates. Peace is a concept of societal friendship and harmony in the absence of hostility and violence. In a social sense, peace is commonly used to mean a lack of conflict, such as war, and freedom from fear of violence between individuals or groups. Throughout history, leaders have used peacemaking and diplomacy to establish a certain type of behavioral restraint that has resulted in the establishment of regional peace or economic growth through various forms of agreements or peace treaties. Such behavioral restraint has often resulted in the reduction of conflict, greater economic interactivity, and consequently, substantial prosperity. Interestingly, neither the long nor the short description of peace addresses the possibility of a state of unending peace being the norm. And yet, when we listen to our hearts, that would be the ultimate perfection of the philosophers and the politicians and the priests, as it is their alleged goal. We speak of making peace, of negotiations for peace between nations and generations, but we do it in just such a limited fashion. Pick up any paper and there's talk of an accord negotiated to allow food and medicine for refugees in war-torn Ethiopia, or about the delay of any further Arab-Israeli concord pending Biden assuming office, or demonstrations for new elections in Thailand, Kyrgyzstan, and Uganda, and demonstrators sentenced to jail in Hong Kong. With the anonymity of the internet, personal attacks become mob attacks, and trolls dropping their vile accusations and misinformation like bombs spew from endless computers on both the innocent and the guilty. Good manners seem to have gone the way of the dodo bird, and good manners do so much to lubricate human relationships. We need to be able to talk to each other, showing respect even when we don't agree. There seems to be no concept of real peace or anyone really working toward it. At best, peace seems to be an uneasy, temporary truce. And think of some of the odd things we say. How are things going? Response: all peaceful on the home front. Or, I'm at peace with myself. What in the world does that mean? Is that like the old joke? It's okay to talk to yourself as long as you don't lose the argument? The more I researched peace this week, the more befuddled I became. We sing about and wish peace on earth each Christmas and sound as if we mean it. But the more you look for it, the more elusive it becomes. The First World War was the war to end all wars. And we've seen how well that turned out. The top 10 list of war zones to watch in 2020 includes Ethiopia, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, Burkina Faso, Libya, Iran and the Persian Gulf, North Korea, Kashmir, Venezuela, and the Ukraine. And remember, that's just the top 10 of a very long list. Militants, fundamentalists, Islamists, Christians, Hindus, atheists, Jews, Sunni, Shia, Hindu, Buddhists, Sikhs, Ahmadis, and just about every other denomination are the victims of violence, whether from the state, as in China indoctrinating Muslims forcibly, placing them in camps, or between Hindus and all other religions in India, and between Shia and Sunni, different denominations within the same faith. Power certainly does threaten peace. And then there are the protesters and those who are protesting against the protesters and those who are protested against. Poisoned minds and poisoned lives, seeking not the meeting of minds and peaceful dialogue to a resolution of differences, but the silencing and destruction of the other, their beliefs, their faiths, their politics, whatever it may be. Protests and anarchy reigning. There's Belarus, France, the USA, Spain, Pakistan, Nigeria. The list is never ending. Whatever happened to discourse, debate, and then voting peacefully and accepting the results as the goal of the peace-loving? This is the Sunday to contemplate peace, and yet everywhere we look, there is distrust and animosity and discord. So where do we begin? Well, perhaps we begin by remembering the promise of Jesus as recorded by John. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. So clearly, we have been given what we need. And it must all begin with our own commitment to change and embrace that peace. Adopting a true commitment to change in our own lives, a commitment to support those who seek peace, whether it's supporting the store clerk who's being yelled at by standing beside her with words of calm and peace, or stopping our own tongue from a sharp reply, or our thoughts from seeking vengeance instead of forgiveness. The reality is that the first step lies in changing the way we think and the way we respond. Until we change ourselves, we'll just be identified as hypocrites if we try to influence and change others. We have to be willing to consider the concerns and the beliefs of others with respect and with an open mind. It doesn't mean abandoning our own beliefs, but we have to be willing to examine the possibility that we don't know everything. We have to be willing to discuss and debate and explore with an open mind, truly listening to the voice of the other. And when we say we are at peace with ourselves in the future, I trust that it means that we're at peace with the efforts we are making to be at peace with the others in our lives. And if we can spread that message of peace and love, which is the message of Jesus, when we leave this world, it will be a better world for our having been here. Canada, under the leadership of Lester Pearson, developed the United Nations peacekeepers, the peacemakers, and that is what we need to adopt as individuals. For nothing happens in a vacuum. It is each individual making their own individual decision as to how they will live and what they will live for and what it is that they as an individual can do that determines everything. It's only when each individual makes the choice for peace that there will be peace. But in the meantime, let us, you and I, make that choice. Let us accept the invitation to follow in footsteps that have led across the centuries, footsteps that have led down to us since they first imprinted the dusty ways of the Holy Land, steps that beckon to us and invite us to take up the challenge and carry the banner forward. All in all, I think Peter said it best when he wrote, "Shun evil and do good, Seek peace and chase after it. It's not a game for the weak or the fearsome. It's the challenge to reject temptation to do ill to others and grab for the golden ring of peace and run, leap in pursuit of that holy grail. Peace for all. And after you've chased and fought and clamored for peace at the end of the day, remember to do as did the psalmist. I will lie down and fall asleep in peace. Because you alone, Lord, let me live in safety. God bless you in our challenge. So may it be. Amen. Be good to yourself. Vaccines are coming, but they won't be here in time for Christmas. And winter is going to be with us for a long time. I find if I plan a treat a day, it helps and gives me something to look forward to. It can be an old movie. My treat last night was The King and I happily respond to the invitation, shall we dance, with a twirl and a dip around the living room. You know, sometimes it's an advantage to be on your own. But you may prefer a favorite dinner, delivered or created, or nibbling on the wonderful combination of cashews and dried mango, or a long bath with a good book, or a lazy phone call with an old friend. Too much isolation and deprivation have a habit of messing up the cheeriest of natures. It's important to look after you. God's blessings and peace be with you until next week when, God willing, we'll be back together once more. See you then.